What up, you guys? We are here for our weekly anchor message where we are getting our spiritual lessons for the week. I'm going to try to make this brief because I work tonight with a blinding migraine, and my biggest table were a bunch of Republican politicians. So, needless to say, I've been quite irritable. So I'm going to show you the cards. I'm going to talk about this week's astrology, and then I'm going to take it over to the audio that we've been doing where you can look at the spread of the cards, and we'll call it a night. So we have the temple, followed by the gem, followed by Gnosis, underneath temple we've got Two of Pentacles, underneath the gem we have the Moon, and underneath Gnosis, we have the High Priestess. So with the inner temple, or with the temple, it's like we are the temple. And when the Bible talks about the rebuilding of the temple and the deconstruction of the temple, you know, it's funny because this is a physical truth that the original temple in Israel was torn down, or there was not a stone left standing, as they say, and so people have always been anticipating this physical rebuilding of the temple. You may have caught on that there is a huge deconstruction movement as far as deconstructing the evangelical and fundamentalist beliefs of the Christian church, and people are starting to see through the misrepresentation of the message, and they're going deeper and really getting into the pure simplicity of Christ's outer message, but they're also starting to understand or become curious or aware that there's also this like inner message and deeper teachings as well. So the temple, the church, is being deconstructed and reconstructed. And then there is us. We are the temple. And so we have to deconstruct our ego and all of our preconceptions and things that we think that we know, so that we can unknow and then be retaught the actual truth, the higher truth. And that's when we overcome our lower carnal self, and we can connect and draw from the wellspring of wisdom from our higher mind and our higher self and our divine self. So in order to access this inner temple, it takes this regular discipline of going deep within, sitting in prayer and meditation, and studying the scripture, not reading it from an intellectual perspective where you're fighting with these very confusing stories sometimes, and the details they choose to give, and the ones they try to leave out or decide to leave out. It's like, if you try to understand this intellectually, it leads to a frustrating experience. And you've met these people, and I'm thinking of a specific person I know who they look at the Bible and they're trying to read it and they're trying to understand it from this intellectual point of view, and it doesn't make sense, right? And so they're wrestling with it and they're struggling with it. But there's two types of people that I've known: the type of people that try to wrestle and struggle with their intellectual understanding of the Bible and decide to reject it altogether because it seems violent and backward and misogynistic and senseless and unscientific. And then there are people who, stick with it because their tradition and their community puts the pressure on them, and they don't want to turn their back on their faith or their religion, so they just keep trying to force it to make sense to themselves. but they don't understand the metaphysical truth and the deeper layers of the Bible. When you read the Bible, there's a Hebrew word for orchard, and it's a 4-letter word, and that word turns into an acronym, and I can't remember. I think it's a P word. Oh, if I could only think of it right off the top of my head. Gosh, when I have a migraine, they're very extreme. I like basically go blind. Like I realized I had one. They come on very sudden. I noticed that everyone, like people's faces were like half missing, and the other part that I could see was deformed. Like everything's weird. I'm like partially blind. I don't make sense. It's almost like having a stroke or a seizure, but you just have to keep on going. And so I'm pretty wiped out. So they're trying to understand this and make it fit, but what they don't understand is there's 4 layers of meaning when you look at any passage in the Bible. And so the Hebrew word, which is, I'm not going to remember, it's P word, it means orchard, but each letter is a word that translates into the different layers of the Bible that you interpret. And there's the surface layer, which people kind of read it literally like it's a story or a history, recounting or whatever. And they just kind of read what's happening, and they take that at face level. And that's kind of how the Pharisees ruled the people. They were like the religious cops that made sure that people were living according to the law of Moses. Now, then there is a next layer in where you're taking the moral of the story and how you apply that to your the way that your heart changes and the way that you change your mind. And then there's a deeper level where it works on your soul, and it's symbolic, and your soul is corrected and expanded by this interpretation. And then there's the deepest level, which is the spiritual technology that is basically the symbolic encoding that the Bible actually is. And so these things that feel so foreign, and you're like, why are they bringing, like, what's the significance of the well all the time? And they're always, making mention of this and that. These are codes, and it's spiritual encoding that gives you the ability to tap into these spiritual tools and spiritual technology that is the Bible. And so if you're not understanding it on these different layers, then there's a lot that's going misunderstood, and there's a lot that's falling through the cracks, and then there's a lot of frustration left over. So in order to tap into this wisdom, it's like we have to put aside our egoic mind and let our soul read. And so we have to sit, in this openness and not think that we know, but think, okay, I don't know. Like we have to almost approach reading scripture and, any holy text like a scientist approaches their work. Scientists, we think of them as being like knowing everything, and they're so smart. But the reason why scientists are so smart is because they have no hubris. They believe, sometimes they do, right? Sometimes they get kind of arrogant. But what makes a good scientist, a good researcher, is someone who knows they know little, right? Just like Socrates said, a wise man knows he knows little. So they're always willing and under the assumption that they don't know the whole story, that there's something more that they don't know about, that they might be wrong, or that the theory could change because they could learn something new. So this is the same way we have to stay. We have to stay teachable, and we have to approach the work like innocent children, ready to learn and ready and willing to be wrong, or willing to have something surprise us and be unexpected. So tapping into the inner temple, we have connection to this knowledge. And when our hearts and our souls and our minds are elevated enough, and we're willing and we're open, then that's when we can tap into that spiritual guidance and that revelation as we are reading and learning. And as we sit in prayer, we can reach God with our prayers and receive guidance and direction and inspiration and provision and protection. And when we sit in that quiet stillness of meditation, that's when these like profound insights and eureka moments come, and guidance and direction for our life. It takes that space and that quietness and getting our soul and our mind still for us to hear that quiet, still voice. You know, because our fear is so loud, our insecurity is so loud, our eagerness, our selfishness, our jealousy, our, you know, comparison, our insecurity, everything is so loud. And then all the outside voices from the world are so loud, and everybody wants your attention, and everybody wants your time and your attention and your money and your resources and everything. And you're just like, rah. So you have to be able to shut it all off and close it all out and go into the temple. And we are the temple. That is where you will find the real gems, right? The gems that help you understand the context of your life and understand what it's all been for, and the meaning and the purpose, right? And finding purpose and meaning as you move forward, not just looking back on the past, but finding meaning and purpose in the moment that you're in, whenever and whatever it is. And then, you know, going forward, moving into your future with meaning and purpose. And this is where understanding comes from, and virtues are born within you: compassion, mercy, love, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. You know, we don't have these gems that you can't, when you have a precious gem comes from a raw mineral that's been put under pressure and put into dark places, and it's cultivated over time through, you know, heat and pressure and whatnot. So, you know, we don't get these treasures from having everything so simply laid out and everything so easy all the time. I mean, look at all of this entanglement and chaos kind of that surrounds this beauty that comes through. And then we have gnosis, and gnosis is knowledge, but it's the knowledge and the truth, like with a capital T, truth, that comes from an inner knowing and a lived experience, right? It's like when you live the truth, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. It's like when you experience something for yourself, no one can tell you differently, and no one can take that away from you. When you know something based on, like, it's like, for instance, people who have never had a supernatural experience versus people that have had a supernatural experience. People who don't believe in the supernatural, who have never had the experience, they want to, undermine people who are more supernaturally inclined and believe in the things that you can't see. And so they, you know, a lot of times they act like, you know, we're gullible or we're foolish or, you know, woo-woo or crazy because they haven't had that experience. But for those of us who have had supernatural experiences, and we believe in these things that we cannot see, we know that there's a spiritual realm. We know that there's an intrinsic and an extrinsic, because we've experienced it ourselves, and we know, and we cannot unknow, and no one can tell us differently. When I was a very small child, I have vivid memories of being able to see entities, angels, dark entities, demons. I don't remember it vividly, but my parents remember me pointing out the window and saying, there's big Jesus. And he was sitting on this huge rock across the street from my house. My sister saw Jesus when she was a little girl. And so we know from experience, because we had those firsthand experiences when we were children. And then I, even into my, up until around 13, 14 or so, I was still very aware of the other side and entities and things. And sometimes I would see them with my physical eyes, and sometimes I would hear them with my inner ears. And I could feel the presence of them around. And so it's not, it wasn't just like my imagination as a child. It was like ongoing for a long time. And so I can't be told otherwise. And I've never had an issue where I turned my back on my beliefs because I know that I know, because I've had my own experience. So the Gnosis card is that feeling of, I have sensed something for myself, and I have tapped into this revelation and wisdom and knowing that no one can take from me and no one can tell me differently. But it's also the ability to be open to the mystery and open to the unknown and willing to not understand and willing to trust when you can't understand, trusting the mystery, having certainty even in the face of uncertainty. So we have the Temple card and we have Two of Pentacles. And so there's this, one of the themes of the week is that we might be feeling like, oh my gosh, like, am I on the right path? Like, am I going in the right direction? And I had the same sort of existential crisis the other day. And I was like, am I going in the wrong direction? If you guys saw the video, I was talking to you guys about it. And so this is the weekly portion of the Zohar. I didn't know this ahead of time, but this is actually what that energy is dealing with. And I'm always like right on the energy. It's so funny. So it's this trust that we have to put in the Creator that sometimes we don't know, and we're not going to be certain, but we do everything that we can to have the courage of our convictions, to follow those convictions. And when we let go, and we surrender, it's not that we throw in the towel and we stop making an effort, but we can't do it out of laziness. Like, we can't just like give up, or we can't do it out of like a loss of like faith. But we let go of the outcome and we say, you know what, God, if you don't want me to go in this direction, like, make it so clear. Filter my experience to where you are showing me what is meant for me, and I'm not even being shown and distracted with what's not meant for me. Like, you really have to pray like crazy for this kind of revelation to come through. Like my Kabbalah teacher David was saying in his weekly episode, like, spend 30 minutes or an hour just constantly asking for the certainty and constantly asking for this filter, to be put in place to where you're only connecting with what's truly set aside for you. And if it's not said, if you're pursuing something that's not really for you, that it becomes abundantly clear. But if it's not really for you, then eventually it will lose its fulfillment. You'll be tired of doing it. It won't be worth it. It won't have meaning for you. But if it's something that lights up your soul, that does have meaning, it's not that we won't get tired and we may get discouraged sometime, but it's something that is deeply fulfilling that we can't walk away from. We can't let go. Like, for instance, it was a lifelong dream of mine to work in film and television and to make movies and things. But it was really an ego dream, because after a while, it wasn't worth what it took from me to stay in the industry. And I didn't find any meaning and purpose and value in it. And it wasn't fulfilling anymore. And it was actually sucking the life out of me. And what was really calling me was being a spiritual teacher and doing this, just what I'm doing, making content where I help talk to people about spiritual things and help them reveal their consciousness and their soul and their inner light into the world. And so even though sometimes I get very tired and I wonder, like, am I on the right path? Am I going in the right direction? At the end of the day, this is deeply fulfilling work for me. And there was a point where I was still kind of doing both. And I was in a relationship where the guy gave me this ultimatum that if I didn't get my career together, that, it was over between us. And I was less independent at the time. And I was trying to make the relationship work. So I took a job on a series, like on a scripted series that was filming here in town. And it was like 7 months long. It was like 16 hours a day. It sucked the life out of me. And I didn't have time to make my posts anymore. This is before I started the channel. And I was just writing and doing the Instagram posts where you see the photo and you see that I have my writing and it's in the description box, but lately I've been reading it to you guys. Well, I was doing that for a few years before I got on the show, and I was like starting to grow on Instagram a little bit, but it wasn't like huge. And so once I got on this series, I didn't have time to do that anymore at all. I had to give it up for like 7 months, and I lost all my momentum, and I lost all my place in the algorithm, and my reach has never been the same since. And so that 7 months was the most depressing, distressing, soul-sucking 7 months of my life. And I felt like I'd abandoned myself, and I missed, making this spiritual art. And I felt like I was turning my back on my purpose, and it felt awful. And so even though I get tired, I never feel like I've wasted my energy, because I feel like even if one person sees and watches this, that it means something for someone. So, that might give you some help or indication if you're feeling like that as well. But in order to get past this feeling of like heaviness in the world and distraction and chaos, we need to shut off all that noise and give ourselves regular time to just be in quiet, be with our own thoughts, read, do things that aren't involving all of this outside noise. We can't shut it off completely. We've got to kind of stay aware of what's happening, but we can have a balance. And so today I didn't watch any videos. I didn't really get on social media very much, except for just a post. I wrote my post, and I went running, and I folded some laundry and stuff. And honestly, I had a much lighter spirit than I have, even though I had a terrible migraine that was blinding and crippling and left me feeling like nothing, like garbage. So now the gym here and Gnosis, they're both kind of emphasized by the Moon card and the High Priestess. The High Priestess is associated with the moon. I mean, you can even see it in the picture. And the Moon card, both of these cards, the High Priestess and the Moon card, are associated with the intrinsic realm and the subconscious and the deep subconscious. And then also the psychic powers of intuition and going into that astral realm of dreams, being able to understand your prophecies and dreams. The High Priestess has a deep connection with and a deep practice of going inward and sitting in meditation and connecting in that stillness. And so she has, in traditional tarot, she's holding the Torah scroll because she understands the mystery and the deeper meanings within the Torah, like the layers we were talking about, because she sits in silence and seeks to understand. Her desire is to understand. So she's built the vessel to receive the knowledge, the truth, the gnosis. The Moon card has us facing the deep subconscious, facing our fears, looking at our patterns, understanding our subconscious beliefs and subconscious fears and insecurities that might drive us. Our animalistic nature that cause us to be reactive, we need to overcome and domesticate that so that we have self-mastery and we can reach that Christ consciousness, that higher mind, that divine mind. And so the astrology of the week is interesting because today was, or the beginning of the week, we have a Mercury Cazimi, which is when a Cazimi is when a planet is conjunct with the sun, it's connected with the sun, and it's very close, it's a closer proximity to the sun. And so it really emphasizes and brings a lot of illumination and light to the themes of that planet. And so we have our mind being illuminated and our ideas being illuminated. So we might start off the week feeling like all this revelation and clarity and insight and ideas. Remember yesterday in the weekly energy forecast, we had Revelation was the first card that came out. But there's also this aspect of going back and forth through the week of like feeling like, oh, I've got clarity. Oh, I'm so confused. Oh, I still don't know what's going on. I don't have clarity. I'm back and forth. And that's because we still have Venus in retrograde and Mercury in retrograde. Well, currently they are retrograding in Aries, but towards the end of the week, they move back into Pisces. And so we go back from this like fiery, bold, direct Aries energy of like, I've got clarity, I've got fire, I'm aggressive, I'm direct, I'm moving forward. And then back into that sort of like dreamy, illusory, Piscean energy. And then at the end of the week, we have a solar eclipse in Aries, which in a solar eclipse, the moon and the sun come together, but it's like the moon eclipses the sun. And so we have this aspect of the divine feminine eclipsing that masculine energy. And so stillness, that deep divine feminine supernal energy of restriction, stillness, quiet, that is what's going to bring out the revelation of our enlightenment, right? But in the world right now, it's like, it seems like even in our outer expression, we have feminine energy versus this masculine energy. We have the matriarchal energy of, the planet, that one, huge chunk of the planet wants unity and community and sustainability and cooperation. And we want to heal the earth and heal each other and work in together and foster togetherness and goodness, and where everyone's taken care of. And then we're fighting against the old established ways of trickle down economics and exploitation and war and destruction and force and aggression. And so it's interesting too, because the most effective way to resist this authoritarianism and oligarchy and corruption in the world is actually yin energy of just pulling back and not participating in it. We're doing the boycotts, right? So we're not spending, we're not ordering things, we're not participating in their game, because these are companies that are owned by these billionaires who are all making these laws so that they can basically fuck everybody over, enslave us in poverty, and exploit us for everything that we have. Meanwhile, they're getting richer and richer and richer. You've got Elon Musk crying on the news about how he's lost $200 billion. This is the person who's been going around saying that empathy is a sin and that empathy is exploited. And yet the poster child of you shouldn't have any empathy is on the news crying, hoping that people will have empathy for him and buy my stock so I can stay a multi-100,000 billion zillionaire and destroy your lives and give you a hot glued car that they've recalled, right? And by the way, are you going to want to ride in a rocket that is made by someone who doesn't understand cold fusion and who can't even make a solid truck or a car that you can't peel apart? Like, you can peel apart a Cybertruck with your hands. Someone did it on YouTube. It's such a cheap piece of shit. He's not an innovator. He's not a forward thinker. He's not a person who made himself. He's a baby of wealth, generational wealth, and nepotism, and all these people that call liberals snowflakes. They're the ones that are actually the snowflakes in the end when it comes down to it. So the feminine strength who can withstand child labor pains, and women who can go all day without eating anything and still do hard labor and work their asses off and make it through and go show up to work with freaking seizure level migraines and heart attack level menstrual cramps, bleeding and gushing blood and passing clots. Yeah, we're the fragile ones, right? But this isn't a gender war, okay? This is feminine energy versus masculine energy at its most extreme, potent examples. And we all have feminine and masculine energy within us. And ideally, we strike a balance of both within ourselves. The best men are the ones that are in touch with their feminine side, but they still have the strength, right? The worst men are the ones that are like overly toxically, aggressively masculine or overly passively feminine, right? And the best women are the ones that have a nice balance of being able to, take action and get things done. They're decisive for themselves, but they can still be, receptive and feminine and fun and nurturing, right? The worst kinds of women are either the ones that are so passive that they ask their husbands at the restaurant, "What do I like to drink? What can I get?" Like they have no mind of their own. They're completely like flaccid and they can't decide for themselves. Or they're overly masculine and they can't receive and they can't relax and they can't sit back and they can't chill and they can't just slow down a little bit and take it easy. So we all need that balance, right? But when we're talking about the patriarchy and the matriarchy, this isn't about gender wars. This isn't about men versus women. I love men. I love women. I love everyone, right? But there is this toxicity, and it's like the pendulum. The scales keep swinging so extreme, and we need to bring this into harmony and more balance. So that's where we're at right now. Everything is so intensified, right? Because we're starting to see very clearly, okay, this is definitely not working, but we can't overcorrect with extremism, fighting extremism with extremism. We just can't do that. So we have to learn to find another way. So a lot of the resistance right now is taking a step back and not participating in the world system the way it's set up, and taking our dollars back and just simply not buying the shit that they want us to buy, So we have so Venus and Mercury are going to be retrograding in Pisces towards the end of the week. And so the Mercury and Venus retrograde still have us sort of like up in the air, rethinking about how we find security and how we build security and love and how we interrelate and how we have relationships. Mercury has got us rethinking our ideas and what we think we know. And so there's this back and forth all week. And it ends in this big culminating solar eclipse in Aries, which should be pretty fiery. And so lunar eclipses tend to affect your mother, and your mother relationship. And it's funny because on the last lunar eclipse, me and my mom actually went to lunch and we had a great day, and it was like a really healing day, I think, for our relationship. We'll see how it goes with my dad, and what will happen in regards to him on this solar eclipse. So we'll see about that. But so I think I'm going to end this here, and I'm going to add the audio from today's post, and I will see y'all tomorrow for our weekly manifestation oracle message. So peace. Listen to our last part of our message. It'll be brief, and love y'all. See you tomorrow. This week may feel a little like learning to ride a bike. We're balanced. Oh no, we're not. Yes, we are. Oh no, we're not. Oh, there it is. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh no. Oh no. Wait. I got it. Oh no, sidewalk. Oh shit. We're oscillating back and forth between clarity and illusion. Our egoic mind would like to cling to anything we think we know for sure. But our higher mind is calling us to reach for that less convenient higher truth that comes from an inner knowing deep within. In order to regain our balance, we must cut out the noise and create more silence and stillness to access this deeper wisdom from our spirit. There's a solar eclipse happening at the end of the week that will reveal what has been obscured and hidden. Solar eclipses tend to affect masculine energies most extremely. The moon, representing the feminine energies, will be obscuring the masculine sun. In order to tap into our inner wisdom and shift our outer experience, we must adopt a yin approach of less action and more inaction, listening, stillness, and quiet. The real treasures, the deeper wisdom, can only be found in the inner temple where we access the Holy Spirit, which appeals to our higher mind and higher consciousness. This truth is felt and experienced. It is not dogmatic. The temple is each of us, and it is only rebuilt when we sacrifice our egoic carnal mind and animalistic nature for our Christ mind, which will reveal our divine nature. We have to overcome ourselves and transcend our selfishness, laziness, and fear. Clarity will come, but first we have to detach from the noise of the evil influences of the opponent and connect directly to God through our own quiet prayers and meditation. There are treasures and liberation to be found, but they are buried deep within our subconscious and the catacombs of the inner temple. One last thought is that we've had so many messages encouraging us to sit in meditation and have a regular meditation practice. So I'm going to try to do this week. I didn't get to last week, but I challenge you all. We all need to do this. We need to sit regularly in quiet meditation. All right. Much love. Peace.